How you talk about someone when they're absent really has impact upon how you treat them when they're present. Sometimes Christians think that it's okay to kind of tease about Mormons when they're not around. That's kind of a pet peeve of mine. Maybe they focus on exotic teachings and so on. But among the people that you're talking to, there can often be folks who have LDS family members or friends, and what you're saying can be hurtful. And maybe just more to the point, it reveals what's in our heart. And so it's really important that we treat Mormons with love and respect, that we respect their sensibilities. I'd like you to imagine if Mormons were talking about and teasing privately in one of their meetings about the Trinity. How would that make you feel? It just wouldn't be productive to having any kind of dialogue. So also, when it comes for us, it's important that we not speak flippantly about matters that they hold sacred. In private conversations, speak as if Mormons are present right there. I'll do many training seminars, and one of the things I'll ask is if Mormons are present, I'll want to come back afterwards and talk to them about their thoughts. And they may not always agree with all of the conclusions that we have, but they've always respected that we quote from their sources and that we use it in a loving tone. They never question where we're coming from. So again, treat Mormons with love and respect. LDS folks can make some very friendly neighbors. They may, when you come into a neighborhood, greet you with cookies, just wrap their arms around you. And that may continue for a time, but maybe it begins to fade when they hear that you're not LDS, maybe that you have a different church. My encouragement is that you wouldn't let up, but if it begins to fade on their side, that you would continue to work and take the initiative to reach out and keep that connection. Truthfully, many LDS communities are close-knit and sometimes closed type society, and so it might take a little more persistence in order to break through. One of the biggest ways that you can show love and respect is by listening. Many wives might encourage their husbands to do that. If you think about that, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I think he was trying to tell us something. I'm convinced that listening is the forgotten aspect of witnessing. Now, we recognize that in a dialogue, there will be people who are speaking and listening, but so often when we think about witnessing, we right away go to speaking, and we forget to first listen. You know, there are a number of ways that you can be an active listener, and sometimes that's simply by asking questions and then taking a step back. Maybe think about someone who's a very dear friend of yours. Somewhere along the way, they probably asked, "How are you doing? How are you really doing?" And you opened up because they took the time to listen. And it forged a very close bond between the two of you that perhaps has remained to this day, simply because you listened. And so I would encourage you, as you're seeking to reach out to your LDS friends, take the time to ask questions. You might ask, what callings have you had in the church? You might ask, what activities have you been involved in? Did you go on a mission? Are you temple worthy? And so you can begin to ask questions, just curious about them as a person. And then you can also then begin to ask other questions, about spiritual topics. Tell me, what do you understand about sin? Like, for example, what would you say is a sin? And how often do you think people like you do sin? And by asking some of those questions now, because you've laid a foundation framework of relationship, it's not confrontational. It's just out of curiosity and trying to learn more about them. Another part of listening that I would really encourage is, that you take the time to actually write down some of their answers. I know at first that may seem a little bit odd, but if you're ever speaking and then someone is writing down what you had to say, it's because it was meaningful. And by doing that, you're actually honoring them. You're showing respect. So in conversations, take time to write some notes down. And then as you do, you can go back to that written record. Take, for example, if you had talked to them about sin previously, you could go back. Last time you were talking about this or that about sin, and I came across this Bible passage. I was wondering if we could talk about that again. And it makes a great opportunity to pick up that conversation once more. Mormons don't always believe everything the LDS Church teaches. One of the things that we hear again and again from people who come out of Mormonism is Christians, well-intentioned, have sometimes said, I know what you believe. And they're kind of offended or even hurt by that. You may bring up things that they weren't even aware of, and they certainly didn't believe. They might even say, how can you say that? You're not in my heart. How can you know what I believe? And so there again, it's just really important to listen and to ask the question, what is it that you personally believe? And here's the thing. If I listen, then I'm going to have a better understanding of where they're coming from. So that finally, when I do speak, it's going to be almost surgical and with precision to exactly now what they need to hear. If I'm talking to someone and they're maybe very self-righteous, I can speak a little bit more toward the message of the law. James 2:10, we break the one law at one point, we're guilty of breaking all of it. If I speak to someone who is really broken and fallen into despair, I can share a message of the gospel. Jesus said, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Some people think witnessing means just speaking so much. I ran across one person, he said, I shared 15 passages in a half hour, and I thought, oh my. It's like machine gun evangelism, right? I mean, you're just spraying them with passages, and if you were on the receiving end, it would be like a dump truck just being poured out over you. It'd be overwhelming. Friends, as a hunter, one well-timed shot can have tremendous impact. One well-timed Bible passage can really make a difference. So my encouragement here for you is to, yes, speak, but you can't know what to speak to unless you first take the time to listen.